Chapter 8. When the Lamb opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Then I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. And another angel came and stood at the altar with a golden censer, and he was given much incense to offer with the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, with the prayers of the saints, rose before God from the hand of the angel. Then the angel took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and threw it on the earth. And there were peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Now the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to blow them. The first angel blew his trumpet, and there followed hail and fire mixed with blood, and these were thrown upon the earth. And 1/3 of the earth was burned up, and 1/3 of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and 1/3 of the sea became blood. 1/3 of the living creatures in the sea died, and 1/3 of the ships were destroyed. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, blazing like a torch, and it fell on 1/3 of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. 1/3 of the waters became wormwood, and many people died from the water because it had been made bitter. The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and 1/3 of the sun was struck, and 1/3 of the moon, and 1/3 of the stars, so that 1/3 of their light might be darkened, and 1/3 of the day might be kept from shining, and likewise 1/3 of the night. Then I looked, and I heard an eagle crying with a loud voice as it flew directly overhead, "Woe, woe, woe to those who dwell on the earth, at the blasts of the other trumpets that the 3 angels are about to blow."
Revelation chapter 8. The 7th seal and the start of the 7 trumpets, chapters 8, 9. 8 verse 1. After the parenthesis of chapter 7, in which we saw 2 companies of tribulation saints, we now come to the 7th and final seal. This is introduced by a 30-minute silence in heaven, an awesome hush which precedes ever-deepening judgments. 8 verse 2. No specific judgment is mentioned when the 7th seal is broken. The narrative moves directly to 7 trumpet judgments. From this we infer that the 7th seal consists of the 7 trumpets. 8 verses 3, 4. The angel in this verse is often understood to be the Lord Jesus. He is called the angel of Jehovah in the OT, Genesis 16 verse 13, 31 verses 11, 13, Judges 6 verse 22, Hosea 12 verses 3 and 4. The prayers of all the saints ascend to the Father through him, Ephesians 2 verse 18. He takes much incense to offer it with the prayers. The incense speaks of the fragrance of his person and work. By the time the prayers reach God the Father, they are perfectly flawless and perfectly effectual. In the context, the prayers are those of tribulation saints, beseeching God to punish their enemies, although the order is true of all prayer. 8 verse 5. In answer to their prayers, the angel threw flaming coals to the earth, causing loud explosions, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. As H. B. Sweet says, the prayers of the saints return to the earth in wrath. Thus the 7 trumpet judgments are introduced with violent disturbances of nature. 8 verse 6. We have now come to the middle of the tribulation. These trumpet judgments take us on to the time when Christ descends to the earth, destroys his foes, and ushers in his kingdom. The first 4 judgments affect man's natural environment, the last 3 affect man himself. Many commentators note the resemblance between these plagues and the ones which fell on Egypt, Exodus 7-12. 8 verse 7. When the first angel sounded, 1/3 part of the earth, NKJV margin, trees, and grass were burned up by hail and fire, mingled with blood. It is best to take this literally as a terrible calamity on the areas from which man gets most of his food. 8 verses 8, 9. Something like a great flaming mountain was thrown into the sea, turning 1/3 of the sea into blood, destroying 1/3 of the marine life, and wrecking a third of the ships. This would not only decrease man's local food supply still further but would reduce his means of obtaining food from distant places. 8 verses 10, 11. This third trumpet signaled the fall of a blazing star called wormwood, causing a third of man's water supply to become bitter at its sources. Apparently, the bitter water was also poisonous, since many men died. It is difficult to identify wormwood. When the trumpet sounds, these verses will be all too clear to earth dwellers. In the study of prophecy, it is good to remember that there are many things that will not be clear until they actually take place. 8 verse 12. It appears that the sun, moon, and stars will be damaged in such a way that they will give only 2/3 of their usual light. This fourth trumpet resembles the plague of darkness in Egypt. 8 verse 13. An eagle, NKJV margin, flying in mid-heaven pronounces a threefold woe to the inhabitants of the earth, that is, those whose outlook is utterly worldly, who are at home on the earth, who are not true believers. The three remaining judgments are also known as three woes because of their dire effect on men.